Hi, my name is Ishpreet. I'm one of the PGY4 residents here at Upstate University Hospital in the Neurology Department. And I have with me Dr. Bradshaw. She is the Associate Chair of Education in the Neurology Department. And she was our Program Director for 15 years, almost 16 years. And she won the AN Award for Program Director in 2014. So I have Dr. Bradshaw. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you.
So let's get to it. Can you please tell me how did everything started for you back in early 2000s?
Well, at the time, I was a medical director at the clinic, and the program, to be honest, was in trouble. And the chair had been trying to do both, be a chair and program director, and I think the program had grown to the point where that was no longer viable. So I was asked to take over, and it was hard. My strategy was simply to go around and interview everybody, mostly the residents, and find out what their concerns were. And of course, there was themes that came up, and so we just kind of tackled them one after another. And I think if I have been successful, I would say that the key to my success has been engaging the residents in finding solutions, because they know, what it's like every day on the wards. They know the challenges they're encountering. And so they're really the best source of not just information about what's not working, but I found over and over and over again that they had the best ideas about how to make it better. Mm-hmm. So we just kind of iteratively over the years just made change upon change upon change. And of course, we're guided by the ACGME program requirements, which I think are excellent. I mean, they're an excellent, and very high standard that we aspire to. So people think of them as annoying and overbearing, but I feel that they gave me, as program director, power that I wouldn't have had otherwise, because, I could go to the chair or the faculty and say, this is the expectation that we need to meet. So it undergirded, I would say, our change, and also helped us fill in gaps.
Okay.
So it was, I'd say the most surprising thing about it for me was how much fun it was.
I'm sure, Dr. Bradshaw. You touched upon that things were not doing well. What were the challenges in the early part of your career as a program director?
Well, you're stretching my memory. But I think there was mostly a problem with fair work distribution. That was a big complaint. Senior residents were setting the schedules, and, I think couldn't always be counted on to take the best interests of the junior residents into account. So that's one of the first things I did. I took over the scheduling, and I actually kept it for all 15 years. I didn't ever delegate the block diagram. To me, the block diagram is sort of the skeleton of the program. And if there's a good block diagram with periods of rest and periods of intense work, with a nice balance of experiences, that's really the main thing that defines your experience. So I hung on to that. The other thing is the workspace. They were crammed into this dark little room with broken furniture and no place to hang their coats. So I worked pretty hard, and I went around and bugged the institutional officials until I found someone who said, oh, no, this isn't right, and built us a beautiful new resident workspace. So I think, in showing the residents, your work is valuable. Your physician's doing extremely important work day and night, and nights that we don't have to be there. So, we need to show our support, our respect, and how much we value you. And working with residents enriches our lives in so many ways.
Absolutely. I would say I definitely am benefiting from your efforts as a program director during your experience and during your whole duration as a program director. I mean, we have seen all the changes that have happened, and they are so amazing.
Well, and to be honest, that's the way it has to be from beginning to end. You will never reach a ceiling, right? You'll never reach a ceiling. So for 15 years, we've done things, and for the next 15, we need to keep doing more and more things.
And I understand that every month we have a program directors meeting, which is a crucial part of residents expressing their concerns, their happiness, everything that they're experiencing during that month, and they bring it out to you. It's a very democratic process in my experience in the last 3 years or so, that how devoted we are to that scheduled monthly meeting with the residents. It's amazing.
Yep. I mean, that's sort of the place where the work happens. We meet, I say stuff that I have to tell you, but then what's most important about it is opening it up for concerns. And usually there's a quiet period and nobody says anything, but you have to wait. You have to wait patiently. And then one thing will come up and then another thing will come up. And to me, what's so exciting and really surprising to me is I think one of the only human beings in the world who loves meetings. And the reason I love meetings is that being part of the transformation that occurs right in front of your eyes. So, for example, in a residency, monthly meeting, we would go through the business, and then I would ask what the problems were, and there would be silence. And then someone would say, well, on night float, X, Y, or Z happens. And then we'd talk about it a little bit. Someone else would pipe up, and this happens too. And someone else would pipe up and fill out the picture. And then we'd talk about the problem, and then before too long, someone else would pop up with a solution. And then someone else would refine that solution a little bit. And I didn't have to say no very often. Usually I would end up saying, okay, let's try that.
Yeah, and
it usually worked. And then
exactly.
It became the practice, and then we moved on to the next problem.
Exactly. I mean, I've seen these things happening organically in front of me in the last 3 years. So let's going back to your role as a program director. I understand that the ARIS application season is going on.
Mm-hmm.
How did everything change for you in terms of criteria during your application, assessment, as well as interviews? What changes did you notice in yourself when it meant to the criteria and the selection?
Well, when I was first starting out, I kind of made a database of all of our current residents and looked at who were the stronger ones, who were the weaker ones. And I noticed that all the stronger ones had come here for their medicine. At that time, we were an advanced program. So I realized the medicine department was doing something right in selecting candidates. So I interviewed the PD at that time and took notes and basically did what they did. And to be honest, I can't even remember what they did. But, I mean, it's what are you looking for in a resident? Well, what are you looking for in a good doctor? The same things that you would want in a doctor that you took your mother to, right? You want someone who's honest, someone who works hard, someone who is dedicated to learning, right? Someone who's humble and knows what they don't know. All those things is what we're looking for. And yes, STEP scores are important in the sense that I think they signal something about the work ethic and also about the quality of the medical education. But that's not enough. You want somebody who's a team player, who listens, who's kind, who can tell you when they're overwhelmed. So I actually made a checklist with those traits on it, and I would score all the letters of reference individually, looking for whether those checklist items were present. And if there were 3 letters and no one used the word professionalism, that would to me be a red flag, right?
I understand that. I mean, it's difficult to assess that.
It is.
In those circumstances, would you think like if somebody did like an observership or research or something, that would be so useful for that applicant?
Absolutely. That's mostly what we rely on is letters from observerships. The tips are the more the better, and the longer you work with an individual, the better. So, having worked with an observer for 1 week, I can't say too much about them. But if they've been in the department for a couple of weeks or a month, or they spent more time with me, or been in the clinic with me, so you want experiences that really give you close-up time with a faculty member who's going to write the letter, and so that the letter can be specific, not generic, but specific. So definitely as much U.S. experience as you can muster. And then the quality of that experience should be as close and consistent as possible, which is always a challenge. Externships are better than observerships.
Hands-on clinical experience.
Yes, where you can do histories and physicals on patients, because so many times the observers are not allowed to touch patients, and then the letter writer will say, I can't comment on their H&P skills but an externship where you're functioning as a medical student, very much better. So if you can get any of those during your medical school, that's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would be like your couple of top suggestions for applicants this season?
Make sure you're in the right field. I mean, you really, I feel, and maybe this is true for every field, but I feel that neuroscience, there's a particular kind of mind and person, you know, who's excited by neuroscience, and I think often that shows very early. You know, it shows in the first rotations in med school. It may show as an undergraduate major in neuroscience. And so you got to love your topic, and you've got to make it clear that you love your topic. And how you do that not necessarily with research, although that helps, but with rotations in that area, more than one rotation in neuroscience. And so that passion, that excitement, that curiosity about neuroscience will sustain you through those really difficult days of residency and practice too. Neurology practice is not easy. So, but what keeps you coming back is the love of, you know, the clinical problem solving, right? The localization, that thing you can't get enough of. So.
And I remember when I interviewed here, you know, the Tuesday morning reports, phenomenal. I mean, you handled that case and you taught us about localization. It was amazing, and it was, as I said, one of my top, I would say, things I remember from my interview trail like 3 years ago. It's amazing.
And that's the meat and potatoes of neurology, right? Clinical neurology is what we do every day. Start with a chief complaint. Okay, where could the lesion be? Difficulty walking. It could be many different places. Well, how do we refine that? How does our exam help us determine where the lesion is or might be? Then you go to the differential. It's just so much fun, you know. And with luck and skill, you also get to help people sometimes in major ways.
Absolutely. And just to, you know, one of our last questions would be, you know, the academic year has just started. What would you advise to the incoming interns?
Okay, so this is my latest binge I'm on. It's normal to be afraid. Okay, it's normal to be really scared. That's normal. How to combat fear is, first of all, don't beat yourself up for it, because we're all feeling that whether we admit it or not. And it's normal, and it's a good sign, actually. But what really is a great antidote to fear is curiosity. The mind can't do both at the same time.
Interesting.
So when you get curious about a case, you don't have time to be scared, right? It gets you over the threshold. Most of the time when we're afraid of what might happen, right? And very often those things never happen.
Yeah, we automatically assume the worst possible case scenario.
Yeah, and that's our old amygdala, you know, keeping us safe from lions. But so expect to be afraid. That's normal. Don't beat yourself up about it. Talk about it. Share it. And then just try to get curious about the case. And suddenly once you're curious, and we'll find this, right? You hear the ER, oh, you're mad, you're angry, you're scared. All the way down to the ER, you're complaining. But then as soon as you get interested in the case, suddenly all that just goes away, right?
Absolutely.
So just nourish that and know that will happen, and talk to yourself as you go down there and say, I'm going to get interested in this once I find out what's what. And just kind of talk yourself through that.
That's amazing, Dr. Bradshaw.
It's very simple.
I hope this is going to be very useful for the interns and obviously for the applicants this season. And thank you so much, Dr. Bradshaw, for taking time out of your very busy schedule. And anything else you would like to add?
No, it's. I'll just say this, that you know what you love because it's what gives you energy, right? What makes you feel energized and excited. And for me, always it was working with the residents. So I could be grumpy at home and I'm so tired and but But then I would come into work and I would either do a morning report or I would do a noon conference for the residents. And I noticed every single time, no matter how hard the session was, no matter how many problems we tackled, I would come out of those sessions different, energized, excited, happy. So that's, you know, I think how you find out what your passion is how it makes you feel. And hopefully your passion is neurology.
Well, that'll be what I aspire for everyone. All the applicants and all the residents here. And thank you once again, Dr. Bradshaw. And we'll continue our talks about our residency and program here at Upstate for the neurology department. And I'll see you soon with the next video. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have a nice day.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.